3 wins on the bounce? Check. Into the 5th round of the Challenge Cup? Check. Looking forward to this weekend's match with Newcastle? Check. It's been a great few days for the Coventry Bears and we're here to talk about it. This is the world's greatest podcast about those Bears. This is Bear Necessities. Yes, welcome to Bear Necessities, the podcast all about the Coventry Bears. We live at covbearspodcast.com. We're at covbearspodcast on Twitter, and you can find this show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, and basically anywhere else you get your podcast from. And we're very pleased to welcome the Bears Vice Presidents as a new sponsor of this show this week. We're working on a new feature that will hofully be theirs outright, but for now, we just want to say welcome and thank you very much. I'm one of your hosts, Dave Musson, and joining me as always is my co-host, former Bears player, Craig Cathcart. Craig, how are you doing today?
Yeah, great, mate. Really happy after the weekend. Fingernails are a bit shorter, but yeah, it was a really good day on Sunday and really pleased and really looking forward to the next few weeks. You know, there's some really big games coming up now.
Yeah, so it's coming thick and fast, lots of home games and then lots of exciting away games, all of which we'll be covering on this podcast, of course. Anyway, on to this episode. So coming up on this episode, we've got more of your AskMrC questions and we'll preview this Friday's game when the Bears host the Newcastle Thunder at the Butts Park Arena. Now, we'll remind you of this later in the show, but please note there is hospitality available for the Newcastle game on Friday. So for £40 a head, you get a 3-course meal and your match ticket. Food's being served at 1 p.m, match kicks off at 3. If you're interested in the hospitality, then contact Debbie Watson. Anyway, that's not it for this show. Later on, we're also going to be hearing from the Coventry Dragons, who are getting ready for their season in the London Premier Division and who have now got a formal arrangement with the Bears that offers a proper pathway for rugby league players in the Midlands. All very exciting. But talking exciting, and as Craig hinted, nerve-shredding, we'll start by looking back on Sunday's 31-20 victory over the Pilkington Recs in the 4th round of the Challenge Cup. So we've got a post-match interview with Bears head coach Tom Tsang coming up, but first a very quick run-through of the match. So as was expected, the visitors came out flying, and that, combined with a slightly nervous-looking Bears, meant the Recs actually took a 10-0 lead in the first quarter of the game. But credit to the Bears, they kept their heads and they got back in the game. First, James Mason twisted and turned to score from close range, and then Paul Emanuele gathered his own brilliant chip on the last tackle to score. Kicking machine, Ben Stead obviously converted both of them to give Bears a 12-10 half-time lead. A lead that was almost bigger, although debutant Cam Pearce-Paul sadly just knocked on the try line right on half-time. Second half, the Recs came out firing again, and they really did look a threat, and it was a threat that was increased when James Mason was sent to the sin bin. And although the Recs missed the penalty that followed that, they did soon score another try to edge back ahead 16-12. However, the Bears stayed calm. They were soon back in the lead themselves with Hayden Freeman going over in the corner and Stead converting again to make it 18-12. Before Jason Bass, who to be honest we all thought was done for the day with a very serious looking injury in the first half, not only did he make it back onto the pitch, he somehow managed to touch down despite being swamped by defenders, and Stead again converted to make it 24-12. But still the Recs came back with another try, make it 24-20. But then finally the Bears sealed things off with a trio of very important moments from this match. So Jason Bass made an incredible try-saving tackle, chasing back 70 metres to bring down the Recs player. James Mason scored his second try, which Stead converted, obviously. And then Emanuele rounded it all off with a classy drop goal with just over a minute to play. A real test for the Bears, which they passed. Final score of 31-20. And a match that was seen by 396 people. We'll go through our thoughts on the game next. But first, here's what Bears coach Tom Tsang made of it all.
Well, Tom, you've done it through to round 5 of the Challenge Cup. You continue to make history in this competition this season. That was hard fought. Was that as tough as you were expecting it to be? Tougher?
No, it was pretty much as we expected, to be honest. Like, it was similar to the Dissington game that we said to the lads, look, it doesn't matter what score it is at any point in the game. We know that they'll come hard and they'll keep coming. So we just got to be patient and trust trust our processes. We have a lot of systems in attack and defence that we know that if something's not quite going right for us, then we just need to get back into the groove and get back into the process, and just trust that will bring us through. And fair credit to our guys to go down sort of 2 tries and against a team that had nothing to lose pretty much, and we're just throwing everything. We did keep our heads, and we kept rolling through, and we kept turning up. And I wasn't happy with the first 20 minutes. I didn't think we'd come out with any intensity or any urgency. I'm not sure why that is, but I think we looked a little bit nervous in that first 20 minutes. In all honesty, I thought that we just as that whistle went, maybe just the sort of the occasion just sort of dawned on the lads, and they just sort of went into the shell a little bit, and that allowed Pilkington to just really rip into us for 20 minutes. And we were fairly lucky to go in at half time ahead, in all honesty, but we just said that we needed to be patient, we need to be a bit more aggressive in defence, and we come good, and eventually we did. But Pilkington, they're a great team, they're a seasoned team, they know what they're doing, attack and defence, and they didn't stop, so I'm happy with the win. It's good.
And you had a slightly unusual scenario in that you already knew what the prize was because of the weather affecting when this game was played. So did the fact that you knew that a win today means you get to go and test yourself against a Super League team, was that extra motivation, or was it a hindrance?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Like we've honestly not spoken about that at all, apart from like we watched the draw together the other Tuesday when it was on, and obviously for about 10 minutes we were discussing what that meant, and everyone was excited. But then we purposefully didn't mention it again. So maybe I'm not really sure, but I think obviously, like I said, I just think we were a little bit nervous that in the first 20 minutes. But once we found our feet and found our groove, then we looked really good in patches. Once, like I said, last game, once we cut out our own unforced errors, then we'll be a really, really good team. We're starting to gel, and we're starting to get those combinations going, and I'm really happy with the effort that the guys have put in. That's 2 games that have been close, with the teams coming from behind, and we've managed to grind out a respectable and in the end fairly comfortable win. Yeah,
and it's some of those games like we talked about last year, that those games were ones that the Bears were losing, so it's real progress. I wanted to ask quickly about Jason Bass in particular, because it looked at one point that we weren't going to see him again today because he took that injury, but then for him to come back and in the space of a few minutes score a seemingly impossible try in the corner at one end and then save one at the other, I mean that's incredible spirit from someone whose afternoon looked to be over.
Yeah, he's a fantastic lad. I really, really rate Jason highly, and I think we're always a better team when he's in the 17. And for me, I just said to the guys in the changing room after, I always do a man of the match, and there was a few candidates. I thought Kieran Sherratt was great on the left edge. I thought Dante was great on the left edge. I thought Ben Gray, when he came off the bench, was excellent. But for Jason to, like you say, come back from what looked like a serious knee injury, and I think it still might turn out to be fairly serious, for him to score a try and run 70 metres to chase back and stop one, it's sensational work. And that's sort of the spirit that he brings as an individual, but the spirit that we're trying to build in the group, and they do that. And like you just said, I don't think we would have necessarily had that in the years gone by, and I think that's just one of those knock-on effects of having a group training regularly together and consistently with good numbers, that they build that team cohesion and that sort of togetherness and character. It's good to see.
And a quick word on Cam as well, making his debut today. Looked really great when he was on the ball, but he also, I noticed he seemed to pick up an injury at the end. Have you got an update on that?
Yeah, that's nothing too serious. I think when he jumped up to field that ball, he just landed on his ankle a little bit funny, but I think that was just a minor one, a bit of ice, and the magic sponge seemed to work its wonders on the pitch anyway, so I think that'll be fine. But yeah, he looked really good. I think you can tell he's played at a higher level. He's pretty classy on the ball. Looks like he's got a lot of space around him, and I think once he gets a few games under his belt, he'll be a real find for us. And obviously he'll be wanting to force his way back into the Broncos team, but selfishly we'd like to keep him, obviously. So
yeah. And just lastly, obviously you guys are going to enjoy the moment tonight and look ahead to Widnes, but it's a short turnaround, short week. Visit of Newcastle on Friday. So what are your thoughts going into that game? That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, Newcastle are a top team. I've watched 2 or 3 of their games now, and they play really fast, really up tempo. They're in great shape. They're really athletic, and if you let them get a roll on, they can really punish you. They scored 70 odd points past Hemel and didn't concede any. So we kind of know, obviously having played Hemel ourselves, what they must have done to do that, to deserve that. So we're expecting a really, really tough game, but we won't change our process too much. We'll review this game on Tuesday. We'll preview and do a captain's run on Thursday for the Newcastle, ahead of the Newcastle game, and go into it. And we're currently on 3 wins on the bounce, and hopefully we'll keep that going.
Well, thanks a lot as always, Tom. Congratulations on the win and one step closer to Wembley.
Absolutely, thanks, Dave. Cheers.
Okay, that was the post-match thoughts of Bears head coach Tom Tsang after his side booked a date away to the Widnes Vikings in the 5th round of the Challenge Cup, continuing their history-making run in this competition. Now, Craig, we knew this game against Pilkington Recs was going to be tough, and it certainly was. What did you make of them and of the game? Was it as tough as you thought, or was it tougher than you thought it was going to be?
They certainly came out quicker out of the blocks than I thought they would. I thought the Bears would be really fired up, but and I think probably the Bears, in the same way as the Dissington game, the Bears seemed a little bit nervous. Maybe the fact of a game against Widnes was in the back of their minds, but they didn't really settle very well, and Pilkington actually settled much quicker. The other thing really that surprised me was the level of fitness that they had. They were still going strong at 70 plus minutes. So, they were a really decent side. They had some really tricky players as well. Both their halfbacks were brilliant players. They had a little guy at 7 who was almost impossible to tackle. They had a brilliant hooker who had this amazing inside ball that he played, and they had a lot of success with. And their pack as well were big and strong, and they ran really good lines. I mean, they are a really decent side, and I expect they'll do really well in their division this year. They've had a great run, and really have to congratulate them on their performance and the performances in the previous rounds. They also brought a fairly decent travelling support with them who made a lot of noise and made it a really good atmosphere on the day. It was just a really good day out, and I would have liked to have been a bit more comfortable in the second half, but the Bears did enough to win in the end. Never really looked like losing the game once they took the lead, but yeah, it was a real test for the Bears, and one which the players will learn from, particularly defensively. They'll have to learn to close those gaps that Pilkington were exploiting at times, but going forward, the Bears were just really, really good, especially in the second half. Some really good performances, again from the halfbacks, and also out on the left-hand side of the pitch, made lots of yards on that side too. So, it was, as I said, the other thing as well, the crowd, 396 for a Challenge Cup game. That's a fantastic turnout and bodes well for attendances in the league games.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd echo everything you said about Pilkington. I think they were a credit to the amateur game. And they did put up a real test, and like you say, they brought plenty of noisy fans with them, and it was a good atmosphere. There were points in the game where it was quite feisty on the pitch, but I think many people listening will have probably seen on social media now the joint team photo from after the game. It seems to be becoming a bit of a tradition at Butts Park Arena matches this year, but again, there was that mutual respect at the end of the game. It seemed like both sets of players were getting on. Both clubs seemed to like each other. So yeah, I agree with you completely. It was a really, really good day out. Now, you mentioned, you hinted at some of the areas of the pitch where some of your standout players were from the day, Craig. And I know you and I, we sat and watched the game together, and we were both picking out players as we watched it. I think if we save Jason Bass for the moment, because he does deserve his own question this week, the first 2 players I wanted to throw in there for once to talk about, and feel free to throw in your own afterwards, but I particularly noticed Cam Pearce-Paul and Ben Gray. I thought Ben's introduction really helped swing the momentum in favour of the Bears, and he made a real impact coming on, and I thought Cam just looks like a great prospect. What did you make of those 2, and who else would you throw into the mix?
Yeah, Cam was brilliant in the centre. I said during the game, he looks like he's got loads of time when he had the ball. He was calm when he had the ball as well. He was considered in his decisions when he was when to pass, when to hold on to it. He never got pushed back in the tackle. He defended well as well. The only thing really, and that'll come with more game time, is he ran some really good lines and he was almost through. And I think just adding a couple of yards extra pace, which he'll get as he gets fitter and gets more games, he's going to be a really, hopefully he'll be with the Bears longer than a month, because I think he's got an opportunity to make a real impact. On Ben Gray as well, you're absolutely right. He made a big impact when he came on the field, and actually every carry he made yards. He was tireless really in his running and really good. I mean, a special mention really to all the players that came off the bench. They really did make an impact when they came on, and that's perhaps something that we were missing at times last year, is that we didn't have enough impact players off the bench. But the guys that played on Sunday did a fantastic job, and the rotation worked really well. It meant that there was constantly fresh players coming on the field, and changing things up a little bit as well. So yeah, I thought it was a really good day for the guys in the pack. Other mentions really, Dante Morley-Samuels again. Just impressed with him every time I see him play. He's stepped up a level going into League One, and he's a young lad and he's playing superbly. Going forward, he looks great. Surprised me with his pace when he broke the line and nearly ran the length of the field, because he's deceptively fast. Defensively as well, I wouldn't say he's necessarily a big hitter, but he really marks his man well and closes the gaps. He was really good. James Mason, a mention for him as well, 2 tries. Almost identical tries where he spun round and just went through a gap. He looks really, really good. I think he was playing in second row. Not sure if that's necessarily going to be his best position, but he looks a really good runner, and it was really, really impressive. He's going to be another good player for the Bears, I think. And there was good performances all across the pitch. I was really impressed with the guys. Kieran Sherratt again. He's had a fantastic start to the season. He looks fitter, stronger, faster.
We should also, with Kieran Sherratt, we should also give a special mention, 8 out of 10 for his forward role that he did in the second half whilst running with the ball. The excellence of the fact that he didn't knock on and did a very neat forward role. I was most impressed.
Yeah, and the thing is with him as well is he's always committed, and he played really well. You look across every position now, and we've got some really good players in every position. And not only that, we have in a lot of positions more than one really good player in each position. There is a lot of competition for places now, and that can only be a good thing. That will, push everyone on. The fact that everyone's training together now and working hard, you can see it on the field. I mean, this is a game that potentially, and we'll never know, but potentially we might have lost it last year just from the basis that the Bears were able to play for a full 80 minutes. They had a slow start, but they were able to see it right through to the end. And, it was a really, really positive performance all around, really.
So talking positive performances, let's talk about that man, Jason Bass. So we thought he was done for the day with that injury in the first half. It didn't look good at all. But then in the second half, he appeared, knee quite heavily strapped, and he was back on the pitch. And not only that, he scored a try somehow, and then made not only a try-saving tackle, potentially match-saving tackle. There were people I was talking to after the game that said they felt that tackle was the point that turned the game in the Bears' favour. He was Tom's man of the match. He was probably our man of the match too. I mean, I guess I've kind of covered it in the question, but what did you think of the Bears' number one on Sunday? Because he was playing fullback as well rather than centre, where we've become used to seeing him play.
Yeah, that's a new position for him. I think he's one of those players who can play in lots of different positions. He can play across the back line, really. And he was superb. He played really, really well.
Because your position was fullback, wasn't it, Craig, when you played?
Yeah.
So what did you think of Jason playing there rather than centre? Do you prefer him there, or do you prefer him at centre?
I think it'll take time because he's going to have to get comfortable in the role. It's a new role for him, so hopefully he'll enjoy playing there. I think he's got all the ability to play there. He's quick, he's strong, he's a good tackler. He works really, really hard. There's lots that you want out of a fullback. As he gets more experienced in the role as well, he'll be able to marshal people a bit more. Mm-hmm. I think again that possibly something we've been lacking a little bit in the fullback area is someone who's going to shout at people, pull them back, get them organised in defence, and direct people where to go really. But he was superb. I mean that as I say, that run back, the guy that broke the line was really pacey, and Jason managed to get back, and it was the turning point. If they'd scored there, their tails would have been up massively, and they would have been thinking they're going to go on and win the game. And again, as you said, his try, I don't know how he got we were quite far away from it, but he had about 4 men clinging on to him, and he still managed to get over the line. So he showed his strength there. So I mean, he's been really impressive wherever he's played this season. He's shown a lot of pace, strength, and he's really fit as well. I just hope that knee injury is not, because it did look quite nasty after the game, it has to be said. But hopefully it's just one of those that's a bit of a gash and a knock and isn't quite as bad as it looks.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess also with Jason playing at fullback but having played a lot at centre, I suppose when he does come into the attacking line, he's that experience of playing centre, you'd expect him to maybe run some different angles and run some interesting lines as well. So potentially a really exciting attacking force from that position. That's where he'll be really strong, is knowing when to come in at pace and get on the ball. And he's shown over last year and this year really that he's got a lot of pace and strength as well. So we'll have to just see how he gets on. If he enjoys playing there, then he'll be excellent in that position, I'm sure. Yeah, and of course, quick credit before we round off this game for not only for Ben Stead for kicking absolutely everything, including the impossible ones from the touchline, but for Paul Emanuele as well. I mean, his chip that he gathered himself for his own try was just exquisite and really showed his experience. And his drop goal at the end, it kind of, time seemed to slow down around him when he got the ball, and he just looked up, saw it was on, dinked it over, game won, job done for the Bears. And they're going to be travelling to Widnes on the weekend of the 21st and 22nd of April, which obviously we're going to be talking about much more nearer the time. And in fact, something is happening later this week that we're not going to talk about yet because it will ruin the surprise, but it's connected to the Widnes game for this podcast, and it should be quite a lot of fun. So there's a little teaser for you for future episodes of Bare Necessities. But enough teasing and enough talking about Pilkington Recs. I think now it's time to ask Mr. C. Right, this is Ask Mr. C, the part of the show where I put your questions to my co-host, and it's sponsored by York's Tim, for which we say every week, but it's true. We are very, very grateful for that sponsorship. Now, if you've got something you'd like to ask Craig on a future episode, then don't be shy. Email us a question using the contact form at covbearspodcast.com, or tweet it to @covbearspodcast using the hashtag AskMrC. So we've got 2 questions for you this week. We had to have more in, but because we're going to be doing 2 episodes this week, Craig, I've saved a couple for later in the week. So we're going to do 2 this week. So first up, this comes from Michael Shires. He wants to know, where does reaching the 5th round of the Challenge Cup rank amongst the other Bears' achievements over the years?
I think, this is probably the biggest achievement to date. When you look at where the club started off 20 years ago, playing friendly matches, just to be able to get a game, and, collecting money in a bucket to be able to raise money for kit and everything else. To be in the 5th round of the Challenge Cup, the biggest cup competition in World Rugby League, to be playing in that in the 5th round against a Super League team is absolutely huge. It's an enormous achievement really for everyone at the club. There the Bears had never won a Challenge Cup game before, and to get through to the fifth round is massive, really, really big. It's going to be obviously a tough game against Widnes, but the guys have just got to enjoy it and celebrate. And for people like Al and Ron, who've been at the club since day one, that'll be a special day for them. So it is certainly up there as one of the biggest achievements. Obviously, there's been league titles and things like that one, which I don't want to undermine those. Those at the time they were achieved were massive. But when you look at the journey from where the Bears started and where they are now, it's definitely up there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And second and lastly for this episode, it's a question from me, which I asked you a while ago, but I completely forgot to actually ask on the podcast. So I'm going to bring it up now. So Craig, this is combining your two favourite sports, I guess. So would you rather have a ticket to see Liverpool in the Champions League final this year, but they lose the match? Or would you rather have the Bears go on and win the Challenge Cup, but you miss the game and you never get to watch it back?
I did say at the time that that's like being asked which method of torture would you prefer. Yep. I don't really know. I think what I'll say is Liverpool. It would be a dream to go and watch Liverpool in the Champions League final. The atmosphere and everything else would be just out of this world. But the Bears in League One winning the Challenge Cup, it'd probably be better than Leicester winning the Premier League. It would be like the biggest sporting upset of all time, probably. So I'm going to go for the Bears winning the Challenge Cup. As gutted as I would be not to have been there, just to see them do it and know that they've done it would be enough for me.
And of course, you could always listen to Bare Necessities afterwards and have me describe the match back to you, so you get an idea. Cool. Well, there we have it. This week's AskMrC questions in the bag. Don't forget, if you've got something you want to ask, and it doesn't even have to be about rugby league, email them to us using the contact form at covbearspodcast.com. Tweet them to @covbearspodcast using hashtag AskMrC. And naturally, we're very grateful that AskMrC is sponsored by York's Tim. Okay, before we leave you for this episode, we've still got a great chat with the Coventry Dragons as they prepare for their new season and their formal link-up with the Bears. But first, we've got a game to preview. Now, that game is taking place this Friday, Good Friday, at home to Newcastle Thunder in Betfred League One. Kick-off 3 p.m. at the Butts Park Arena. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, there is hospitality available for this game. £40 a head gets you a 3-course meal and your match ticket. Food being served at 1 p.m. If you're interested, contact Debbie Watson. So, Craig, Newcastle, they're one of those teams that plenty of pundits have really been bigging up this year, and they've made a good start to the season. Now, from my point of view, there's no reason why the Bears can't keep this winning run going and make it 4 wins in a row on Friday, but it is going to be a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly tough. They'll be stinging a bit as well because they've had 2 games in a row against Doncaster. One was a Challenge Cup game, one was a league game. They lost by 2 points at the weekend in the league, so they'll be stinging after that because they came completely out of the blocks early on in the season. They absolutely thumped Hemel away. I think it was a record win for them, 74-0. So and they absolutely hammered London Scholars as well in week 1. So that they'll be smarting from having had 2 defeats. They'll be looking to put that right. So they'll be completely fired up for it, I'm sure. But the Bears are coming off the back of 3 wins. You can never underestimate what confidence winning gives to a team. And I've already seen enough in these in the performances. Aside from the opening day, which was a bit of a disappointment, but the last 3 games, you can definitely see improvement in the squad this year. So the Bears have just got to try and keep in the game, put Newcastle under early pressure, get some points on the board, give themselves something to play for. And you absolutely never know in rugby what's going to happen. Newcastle have got a long journey down, so as I said, the Bears can just look at the last 3 games and take the positives out of that and then use those in the game against Newcastle. I'm looking forward to it, I really am, because Newcastle always bring quite a few fans down. there'll be a good atmosphere in the ground, and definitely going to be a good day, I hope.
One thing we know for sure with the Bears is they definitely can't afford to start the game in the same way they've done against Pilkington or Dissington for that matter. There's no room for that kind of slow, nervous start in League One, is there? But you're right about the atmosphere. I think it'd be great if Newcastle bring a few fans, and it'd be great to see another decent turnout of Bears supporters as well, because coming up over the next few weeks, not only is this game at home, the following weekend, Bears are at home again. And then there's those 2 away trips on consecutive weekends, Bradford away and Widnes away. Now, the impartial onlooker from the outside would probably look at those fixtures and, I guess with my sensible head on, fairly confidently say, yeah, Bradford will probably win that game and Widnes will probably win the weekend after. But as you said, rugby's completely unpredictable. And I think if the Bears can get a good send-off in the next 2 home games and then a decent following as well, you never know what's going to happen, do you?
Yeah.
And this league is one of those ones where anyone can beat anyone. So let's have it. Predictions time for Friday, Craig. What do you reckon for the visit of Newcastle?
As I said, I think it'll be a tough game. You never know which way it's going to swing. All I'm going to say is if the Bears are still in it with 60 minutes gone, then I think they've got every chance of winning the game. So I wouldn't want to say any more than that. I don't want to jinx it. I hope that they go on and win the game. Okay.
Well, I'm happy to back you on that. I mean, I feel like the Bears are on a roll, and part of me feels like we're long overdue an 80-minute performance at home. So if we can have that on Friday, like you say, I think we might be able to surprise them. But
I think the guys just need to be confident. I'm pretty sure they can compete with any team in the league. Mm-hmm. They'll come up against teams that are better than them, with more experience. Teams that have much bigger budgets than the Bears, and teams with Super League talent playing in there. But the lads just need to be able to compete, and that's really all the fans want at the Butts Park Arena, is a team that competes for the full 80 minutes and puts everything on the line. And, as I say, if they do that and they get the fans going, who knows what will happen.
Yeah, and as Tom told us on our preview interview before the season started, he doesn't want the Bears to be the plucky underdogs anymore. So let's see where that goes on Friday. Yeah. That's almost it for another show. We'll be back after the Newcastle match with all the reaction. And hopefully we'll see plenty of you at the Butts Park Arena on Friday for that game as well. But to play us out for this episode, so mentioned it earlier in the show, we're going to play out with an interview with Mark Hislop and Clive Jackson from the Coventry Dragons, who are talking about their plans for their new season. They're playing in the London Premier Division this year, and the new formal partnership they've got with the Bears that is offering a real pathway for rugby league players in the Midlands. It's really interesting stuff, and it probably doesn't really go anywhere near as deep as we'd ideally want to. It was a little bit of a last minute interview arranged on Sunday, but still really pleased with it and really good stuff. Basically what I'm saying is these two guys are people we want to get back on the show later in the season for a more in-depth chat about all things Coventry Dragons. So I guess this is almost a teaser for that interview, but also will hopefully give you some useful info about where the Dragons are at this year. So Craig, I will see you on Friday.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. And for now, let's send the Bears back to their den and let's bring the Dragons out, and we'll catch you next time.
Okay, I'm Mark Hislop. I'm the head coach at Coventry Dragons.
And I'm Clive Jackson. I'm the chairman and I play from time to time.
Well, guys, welcome to Bare Necessities. You guys have been someone I wanted to talk to at some point in the season anyway, so I feel like we're not going to get anywhere near as many questions as I want to ask you in this chat, so we'll definitely get you back on later in the year. But this is an exciting time for the Dragons and the Bears together. As this podcast going out, there's going to be an announcement about a sort of formal link-up between the two clubs. How valuable is that going to be from your side in terms of being able to get some of the Bears players and actually offer that real pathway for players who want to play in the Midlands?
I think it's fantastic for rugby league as a whole, really, for the game. Midlands Hurricanes are producing some absolutely amazing athletes. You've got people like Joshua Jackson coming through. And having this pathway just allows us to give them like something in between rather than them just getting lost and just being a wasted talent and then getting picked up by Union. So the Dragons is here. We're not playing in a Mickey Mouse League. We're playing London Premier. So we could give these lads like a good chance of some good game time. And with having such a good relationship and this pathway now to the Bears, they're going to be in the spotlight for professional rugby league as well. So it's a good thing for everyone, really.
How about you from a coaching perspective, knowing you can perhaps call on some Bears players if you need to, but also that your lads can step up as well?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Because we're an amateur team, half of our players are quite rugby union based as well. So they have to commit till the end of April. With the season starting February and March, we struggle for a bit of numbers because they're still rugby union, which is good because with Cod Bears, people who just can't make that squad, as Clive just said. They come down to us. It fills our players to, right, we've got to pick the league, and they come up and they start training as well. So it gives us a good number. Our first pre-season game today had a bit of mixture of some Bears players, a lot of Dragons players turning up, and it went really well. So it's going good at the moment. I'm really looking forward to it.
And you mentioned that you're in the London League this year. I mean, how much of a challenge is that going to be compared to previous seasons that the Dragons have played in?
I think it's going to be completely unrecognisable, to be honest with you. I think a lot of the games that we were going into the Midlands, no disrespect to anyone else, I think it was probably only Demons that really gave us a bit of a push in the last couple of years. So from an aspect of the players having something to look forward to and challenging, it's huge for us because you've got teams like London Chargers and they're no pushover at all. They're probably one of the more successful amateur teams in the league. So, really, really looking forward to it. It gives someone to look forward to. And really for someone like Dragons to aspire to be, really.
And are you still on the lookout for local talent who might fancy getting stuck into league? If people are listening and want to get in touch, can they do that?
100%, yeah. We've got our own Facebook page. Our numbers are on there, and we want anybody to come if they're just starting, if they've got a bit of experience, if they've just moved down from the north, they want to get back into it. Rugby union players want to try and give it a go. That's what we're here for. We've got some good coaches. We've got some really good players. A couple of players have now moved up into the Bears over the last couple of years. So it's working well. So anyone, any ability, are more than welcome to come down and try out with us. Definitely.
And when's your first home game of the league campaign? We give that a bit of a plug.
Yeah, the first home game is, our first league game is the 28th of April, and that is London Chargers away, so that'll be a right good test for us at the moment. I think we're at home a couple of weeks after that against Hemel. Yeah. So we'll be looking for that. We've currently just moved up over to Old Coventry Rugby Football Club. Great facilities there for us to go. This is what we wanted to do to get out the Midlands, to go in that London League, is have better facilities, a better pitch, physio, weight room, things like that. And it will inspire players to come. And with this league, what we're going into now, it's going to be a very competitive league, and we really want to, progress as a club over the next couple of years as well.
Great stuff. Well, guys, best of luck for the start of the season. And as I said, definitely want to get you back on the podcast for a longer chat about the story of the club and what the future might hold. But for now, good luck and thanks a lot for joining me.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Brilliant. Cheers. Thank you.